Saturday afternoon. I'm so pleased that you're here because today we're talking about something that's really important, and this is understanding a fee as both a subcontractor and as an employer. Okay, and this is really important because there's a lot of misunderstanding, and misunderstanding causes confusion, and that confusion can be very upsetting and distressing and cause all kinds of things. So we don't want that. So the intention of this video is to give you a quick overview and of exactly what's behind fees and things like that. So first off, I want to address a couple of common misunderstandings from the perspective of a subcontractor who has been put on a contract where they've been given a percentage. Okay, so what's happened is they've gone and applied for a job. The employer has said to them, fantastic, you can come and work with us, and the remuneration is that you're going to get a 50-50, split. You're going to get a 50% of the fees. So what happens is straight away, often, people will then go away, the subcontractor will go away and think, she's only going to give me 50%. That's not fair. I'm doing all of the work. She's only giving me 50%. That can't be right. And they go into the online Facebook communities and ask everybody else, have you heard of this? She's giving me 50%, and somebody else will say, oh, you should definitely go for 70 or 80%. And other people say, you should definitely go for 90%. And all this stuff happens where people are getting fired up and they're getting angry and they're getting hot under the collar. But I want to diffuse it because it's coming from a place of just not knowing, okay? And it's coming from a place of a well-intentioned employer perhaps not clearly articulating the fee, okay? So some of the things that you might hear subcontractors say is the employer takes my money, or they might say my employer takes a cut of the fee, or my employer takes a cut of my fee. These statements are not true. These statements are not true. The employer is not taking any of your money. What's happening is actually the opposite. The employer has a business. That business has clients that need to be seen. So there's like an overflow. And so they hire a subcontractor. And the clients come to the business, and the clients pay the business, ABC Psychology, for example. The client pays ABC Psychology, the business, for the session, and then that money goes into the business bank account, and then you send your invoice to the business, and then the business pays your invoice. At no point in time is anybody taking your money, because it's not your money, it's the business's money. I hope that makes sense. I'm just trying to explain it like really simply so that it's like clear. So it's the business's money. It's not yours. So they're not taking cuts. They're not keeping cuts of your money or percentages of your money. No, it's always the business's money, and the business is giving you some of theirs. Okay. The fee belongs to the business, not to the subcontractor. That business can charge whatever it wants for the services and the products and the programs that it provides to clients. Okay. Through you, through its other subcontractors, through its employees, whatever. But the business gets to always retain control over the fees that it charges, okay? That's never anything that you have to worry about. You just do the work, submit your invoice, and you get paid. That's it. The other thing that can happen is sometimes, well, actually a lot of the time, if we're honest, as therapists, we can misinterpret things, and we can think that maybe there's the fee and then there's the perception of our worth. So we might be thinking, well, my employer doesn't really like me that much, or doesn't really value what I'm doing because they're only giving me 50%, right? It's nothing to do with that. The business has chosen the fee that it's going to offer to anybody that comes on as a subcontractor based on what the business needs. So it's nothing to do with whether or not they like you or they value you or they appreciate you. They'll find ways of showing you those things, but the fee isn't one of them. Okay, so it's nothing personal. Okay, that's something that's really important to understand. The fee is not a reflection of worth, and it's not a reflection of appreciation. What I would recommend is I'll make recommendations for subcontractors and I'll make recommendations for employers. If you're a subcontractor and you go for a position and the employer says to you, hey, you can have the job, I'd love to have you on board, and I'm going to give you 50%. What I would suggest you do is ask, what is 50%? Get an idea of what that looks like in dollar terms so that you know how much you're putting in your pocket at the end of the day. How much will you be invoicing for? So ask them, okay, so how many dollars is that per session? Get an understanding so that you know. Because here's the other thing. When we're talking about percentages, a percentage is dependent on the actual fee. So let's say, for example, and I highly doubt this happens, but again, I'm sure there are polarity responders that say that it does. And if that's you, amazing. I'm really, 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 really happy for you. But for most people, this won't be happening. Let's say the employer says, well, I'm going to give you 80%. Okay. And you say, whoa, amazing. Thank you. I'm definitely coming along. And then somebody else says, well, my boss is only giving me 50%. And you're like, oh, that's horrible. That's not very fair. You're only getting 50%. Oh, you're getting ripped off. They're taking your money. Find out what the average session fee value is. Because I tell you this, 80% of $100 is going to be $80. So if your employer is charging counseling clients $100, you're going to get 80%, which is $80. But if they're charging $200 and you're only getting 50%, well, guess what? You're getting $100. So this is what I'm saying. Don't get stuck on the percentages. The percentages mean diddly, you know what, at the end of the day. Find out what the dollar amount is. 80% of $100 is very different to 50% of something like $500 or $200. Okay. And in fact, when you're on 50%, you could be making more money than the people who are on 70 and 80%. So understand that. Ask the employer before you sign on the dotted line, what's the average session value? Okay. Now, the other thing that you want to do too as a subcontractor is ask, what happens with this business if, my client's a no-show or there's a cancellation? Am I going to get paid for reports? Ask those sorts of questions as well and find out what your employer says. Now, if you're an employer and you're hiring, I would never recommend percentages because they're too confusing. They are prone to misunderstandings. They are prone to triggering people, and you're just going to get yourself in hot water with your team, and you'll end up having quite a high staff turnover because people will just accept the job because they need it now, but they'll be looking for other work, other employment in the meantime, and they'll switch over and they'll move out. So you'll have high staff turnover. That's not what you want because it's going to cost you time with recruiting, time going over the ad, time going over the resumes, time doing your interviews, time doing your reference checks, or time training the person, right? And then they're going to leave. And then you're going to have this revolving door. We don't want that, and it is avoidable. What I would recommend for you is, although you've been taught perhaps, or you've learned that you should be giving people percentages, I want you not to. Instead, what I recommend you do is work out, calculate the average session fee, and then just give that and say, this is the average session fee. Done. That way everybody's on the same page. Write it into the contract and go from there. So I hope that this was helpful for those of you who are on percentages. When your contract is up for renewal, most contracts in our industry go for about 12 months. So when it's up for renewal, you could certainly say to your employer, yes, I want to stay. I really love it here. Of course, I want a pay rise, but also moving forward, can you just give me a flat rate? Easy. Um, and maybe take some ideas of the flat rate to the table. Yeah, and employers moving forward, transition out the percentage based contracts and start to bring in flat fee based contracts for your subcontractors. So I hope that this was helpful and informative. If you've got any questions, though, of course, pop them below in the comments for me. I would love to answer them for you. And also super excited because behind the scenes here, I'm getting ready for the next intake for the private practice certification program. So we'll be having a live workshop series Monday the 30th of September through to Friday that week. You'll get access to free trainings. You'll also have the opportunity for anybody who would like to come along and have live Q&As with me and get some templates and some resources. So you might see some Facebook ads float around for this. I'm looking at, I haven't decided 100% if I'm going to do them or not, but you might see a Facebook ad floating around in the next week or two about it. So feel free to share it with friends and colleagues. Everybody's welcome. You don't have to be a counsellor. You can come if you're a psychologist, a social worker, somebody who works in complementary medicine and alternative health are also welcome. That's all our beautiful play therapists, our yoga practitioners, our Reiki practitioners, our physios, our speechies, our OTs. Everybody is welcome in this space, okay? Have a wonderful, wonderful day. If you would like more information about anything as well, don't forget you also have the option of subscribing. It's just $4.99 a month, and you get more in-depth videos, okay? Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Bye.